Hi guys, welcome to Chess Damatio. Our topic on this video is all about the Sicilian Defense. So on this video, I'll show you a trap against the Sicilian Defense. So the characteristic moves of the Sicilian Defense start with e4, c5. So on this position, we reach now the Sicilian Defense. So the strategy of this game that I will show you for white is just for development. And it starts with knight f3, developing move. Black plays d6, tries to have some control on light square diagonal from c8 to h3. And again, white just developed his knight to c3, and then black close the center with e5. And still, white here go for a massive development for his minor pieces and plays bishop to c4. And after knight c6 of black, we shall see that the white has 3 minor pieces which is now developed versus 1 of black. So again, as I said, the idea of strategy of white here is go for just development and plays d3, leaving his bishop to be free on the diagonal of c1 to h6. So black here tries to cope up with development and plays knight g to e7, and then white here completes his development for his minor pieces and plays bishop to g5. So shall see that the bishop on g5, it pins the knight on e7. If the knight goes somewhere, then his queen will be lost on d8. For example, if black plays knight g6, then bishop takes d8, wins a queen. But on this position, the black doesn't place knight to g6, but instead copycat the idea of white and also place a pin on knight f3 and place bishop to g4. So shall see on this position that the black also create a pins against the knight on f3. And for example, let us say the white plays here knight d2, then the same idea, the queen on d1 will be lost. So going back on this position, of course, white doesn't play knight d2 because he will lost his queen on d1, but instead plays knight to d5, creating more pressure to the pin pieces of black on knight e7. And then instead of breaking the pin for black, start with from the move h6, example h6 or f6, example s6, then example bishop to h4, and then g5. So we shall see on this position that this knight has no longer be pinned by the bishop on h4 because it was now blocked with the pawn on g5. So going back, instead of breaking the pin, the black here copycat again the idea of white and plays knight to d4, still pressuring the knight on f3 with the black's knight and bishop on g4. So hoping up that white will panic and plays knight d2, for example, and then the queen will be captured. But the white here doesn't move that, but instead plays knight takes e5. He doesn't care about his queen on d1 because we shall see that after the knight moves to e5, then the diagonal is now open for the bishop on g4. So here black captured the queen on d1. So black now wins a queen on d1, but on this position there is a mate in 2 against the black king. So the mate in 2 starts with the move knight f6 check. So if the knight gives a check to the king, there is no cover, only a capture and escape. But on this position, the king cannot escape to d7, because it was controlled by the knights. So the black was forced to capture the knight on f6 so that there will be no check. But after bishop takes f7, then it is now the end of the game, because it is already now a checkmate. The king cannot capture the bishop because it was supported by the knight. The king cannot escape to this square because there is a knight on e5. So there is no cover, there is no capture, there is no escape. So it is already now a checkmate. So going back again from this position, even though here black doesn't capture the queen on d1, but instead tried to capture the knight on e5 to avoid the checkmate. But after, let's say, queen takes g4, wins a piece on g4. Let's say black here tries to counter attack and capture the pawn on c2, forking this rook and king. But after the move king d1 and let's say capture, there is a check, and here on this position the black is obliged to surrender his queen to avoid checkmate and place ample knight to c6, and then white wins the queen. So going back to the initial position, say this just a recap. After e4, c5, knight c3, d6, knight c3, e5, bishop c4, knight c6, d3, knight e7, bishop g5, bishop g4, knight to d5. The move knight d4 is a bad move, because after this capture on e5, the capture on queen, there is checkmate in 2. So even though here the knight will be captured, we shall see that still the white here can win a queen or more materials. This knight moves on d4 is actually a bad move. The white here can, even though he will not see the knight takes e5 and checkmate the black king in 2 moves, he can still place knight takes d4 and win some materials. After bishop takes d1, bishop e5 check, it is checkmate. So obliged to cover, and after this position, let's say here capture capture on e7, and then knight f5, saving the knight. So for example here, king d2, bishop takes d3, queen takes d3, then wins a material. So again, the knight to d4 is a bad move. For just an innovation to avoid that checkmate, if we are playing it with black pieces, black must place h6 here, and then after g5 breaking, still this checkmate in one here, and just play queen to e5 check, and then after c3 there is no crucial pin which is now created by the white pieces. So thank you, that's all.